I want to just share a quick story. I came into this industry back in 2006. Dr. Phil O'Connor was my first mentor. I drove him around Ameren, Southern Illinois territory, opening up the state for choice back in 2006 and then into 2007. What a great experience to learn from one of the largest. He was the ICC chairman who brought choice to Illinois. And he taught me what deregulation, as that dirty word says, but what that choice brings to customers. 15 years later, after being involved in Illinois and PA and even the reopening up of Ohio as well, I haven't seen a new market in 10 years. So full circle, we're back at the table. We got some really good momentum going, and I'm excited to bring this panel to you all today. So real quick, Enerex, our core purpose, connecting people through technology to increase trust in retail energy markets. We believe in retail energy markets. We believe choice is what consumers need, and that leads to better options for consumers. This is obviously right within our mission statement to bring you this today. And I am just going to go real quick and say we have many products for brokers and suppliers. As you can see, if you want any more information, you can contact me afterwards. Let's get to the real meat of this. I'm going to introduce you to two of the folks that are really leading and spearheading the efforts. Jake Silverman. Jake Silverman is the president of Olympus Political Consulting, as well as the Lobbyist that is focused on Missouri. He's going to tell you a lot about that today. Michael Grimes is the president of a brokerage firm, Commercial Energy Consultants. Mike is putting his time, energy, effort, and money behind this effort, and they're going to talk a little bit more about that today. So kick it off for me, Mike. I am curious. Tell me a little bit more of MOERA. Who is MOERA, and who is the principals, and why are you putting your time, energy, and effort into this endeavor?
Okay, Jason, and thank you for your efforts today. It's always nice to work with a new, exciting group and help us get this word out. MOERA is just something we started. It's the Missouri Electric Restructuring Association. It was done because Missouri has been steadfast against the issue, and we needed something more formal to attack the market. Basically, it's really myself and Jake, who is a lobbyist in Jeff City every day, that makes it possible, because I'm working over in Southern Illinois, and thank you for opening Southern Illinois, because that keeps the money flowing so we can support the new effort in Missouri. But think about it. It's a utility that's in both states. They're in Illinois and they're in Missouri, yet they have a tendency to say it doesn't work. And it's our job to just be the forefront, the truth tellers, and get Jake prepared this year to get into these committees they hold in the state of Missouri with the truth, and disclose the lies that are being told and disprove the lies that are being told. So if we can empower Jake, and if MOERA is the vehicle that does it, that's what it's all about. Absolutely. I'm curious, most people would ask, you're a broker, obviously you'd like to see the state open up for choice. But why are you putting your time, energy, and effort into this endeavor specifically versus going out and getting new customers? I've seen you on the circuit now for the past 3 months and really getting out there and using a lot of your time. What's in it for Mike Grimes at the end of the day, and what's in it for Jake Silverman if this goes through? Well, it's obvious that, I live in Missouri, number one. So it's doubly frustrating not to be able to have to get in my car every day and drive 25 miles to a state that's open is a little frustrating. Absolutely. But what I like about it is, as we all know as brokers, prices are up. It's hard to do business in this market. Yes. But wouldn't it be nice to get a new state open where prices are already up and we could go in and find lower prices for the customers? So I think a new state right now, the fact that one hasn't opened in 20 years, the fact that we have 20 years worth of track record that proves the deregulation restructuring works, it just begs the question, why? Why isn't the state open? And we're here to address that. Absolutely. We'll share some more details on that today. We talk a lot about, and Richard Spilkey, if you guys don't know, is the head of RESA and been really in this game of trying to push different states to consider opening up for choice. And he talks often about this word of deregulation, right? It is a scary word, and the utilities do use that against us.
So we've really been banding together, and I hope all the audience realizes this. It is in the words we use. It is how we tell our story. And so we really should be focused on bringing choice, right, to customers of the state of Missouri. And like Mike said, Ameren is open. So they know about choice. And I know Mike would love to be going out to his restaurants at night, talking to those owners about actually making a choice and hopefully saving a little bit of money in the process. So talk to me about how MOERA came to be. I know you guys both connected in 2022. And then kind of what do you feel like you accomplished in 2021 together? And I'll click through some of these talking points.
Jake, why don't you jump in here and address some of that?
Sure. So again, Jason, thank you so much for having us. Really do appreciate it. So, I've been lobbying. I've been in the legislative side of things in Missouri since 2017, and through business connections and business networking, I met Mike, and he kind of told me a little bit about what's going on with his company, kind of what he talked about earlier about. It's the fact that he has to go to Illinois to find business, and how great would it be if he could just stay in Missouri and find business here. So I told him about the connections I have in the legislature, and so in 2020 we kind of band together and created MOERA, and fortunately enough, we were able to get 2 bill sponsors, and one in the House and one in the Senate. We were actually able to get a very favorable committee after I lobbied the Speaker of the House to put the bill in the Small Business Committee in the House. And sure enough, just due to COVID, due to our bill sponsor not truly understanding the energy side of things, we kind of it just kind of fell through. But we've been put in contact with RISA, we've been put in contact with TIPA. And, we were at that meeting in Chicago, which led to us going to Austin, Texas, which we got a lot of people very interested, which was fantastic. So that's where we're at now. We do have a sponsor in the House that is ready and just waiting for the legislation to be sent. We do have attorneys working on that currently. And that's, thanks to RISA for, putting us in contact. So that's where we're at right now.
That's super cool. And I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of there'll be a last bullet point here. Before I get there, just for the audience, right? What's typically the process when it comes to getting a bill sponsored, right? You have to go through, you have to actually get, like you said, sponsors go into a committee, a bill actually gets written. If they approve it, then that's when the actual constituents get to vote on it, correct? So really getting the bill sponsored and passed is the first element to bringing choice, and then there's going to be a vote on it. Is that how it works?
No, actually, in Missouri, is as long as the bill gets passed in the legislature, it becomes law. Unless it's a joint resolution, that would have to go in front of, that would have to go to the people. Our goal is to not have to do that, because Ameren and I always consider all the utilities Ameren just because they're so big. Sure. But all the utilities will spend millions and millions of dollars to make sure that the voters are not provided the proper information. So our goal is to just do this through the legislature. And the way the bill works, bill gets proposed, it gets introduced. It gets sent to a committee. The committee votes on it, and then it gets sent to a rules committee, and then it goes to the House or Senate floor, and then it actually has to switch over to the other chamber and get passed in that chamber, and then eventually signed. We actually had, like I said, we had the bill sent to the Small Business Committee last year. I've already talked to the chairman of that committee. He loves this idea. So it's now just a matter of just banding together and building MOERA up, and I think we can do that now.
Absolutely. I think we have some more, a little bit more about like who the actual people are, and we'll kind of get to that in a second. Yep. See some great questions coming in from our audience about that, and like who's the sponsor. I promise we'll get to some more details here. I think what's important about this last piece is realize, okay, I met Jake specifically and Mike back in Chicago, as they said, and what I loved about it is, it's not like this is being done and put on with hundreds of thousands of dollars, and Jake's just, rolling in his Bentley up to the state legislator and saying, come on guys, pass this bill. No, it is grassroots efforts, right? This is being done right now on a shoestring budget, $1,000 a month. And Mike does not mind sharing that is what he is paying out of pocket to Jake to fund some of his time and effort to spend on this. My point being, right, is that this is a grassroots effort. And if we can all band behind this, it's not the money's going to Jake or going to Mike, it's going towards things that will help us do and bring choice to this industry. We'll talk about a little bit more of what the money.
Jason, let me mention something here. This is Mike. You have to realize something. What we learned last year is if you don't get to the table, you can't bring the truth out.
So true.
You can tell all the stories you want, but until you get to those hearings, if you can't bring that truth out, it just ain't going to work. And you got to realize something. It doesn't cost a lot, but it does cost more than what I could personally fund. So we just need a bunch of brokers like us just banding together and challenging the state to open.
And the suppliers, and we'll talk about we'll make the direct ask at the end, but I thought it was couldn't agree with you more, Mike. I think it's just important to realize that we're doing this all here, right? I'm not getting paid for any of this either. We're doing this because we care about bringing choice. It's our industry. We want to see what we have done be successful for more states. So what type of material are you actually bringing? I think this is the first slide where you're saying this is material that you're bringing to these legislatures to help them understand why Missouri needs choice. So I'll ask Jake on this one, or Mike, whoever wants to talk about it. Tell us where the slide came from and what.
Jake, let me handle this one because this is the one I present off of. But this is the graph that we're going to put on a T-shirt and make Jake wear in Jeff City. Because think about this. Competitive states over the last 2008 to 2020, large industrial and commercial down 26.9%. That's the track record that we have over 20 years. Monopoly states are in the middle. There's 35 of them. You can see that those rates are out. But Missouri, if you break them out alone, industrial up 29, all sector up 37. And this is the same utility that goes into the utility committee and says, don't worry about it. Deregulation doesn't work. This is the truth. This is our truth slide. I call this the $1 million slide, because if we can make Jake show this to the legislators, and better yet, when the hearings happen, disclose these numbers, it diffuses the "it doesn't work" attitude.
Absolutely, right? It's 12 liquid. I mean, first off, this slide comes from Reza, right?
So Reza made the slide. It wasn't us that made the slide. But here's the whole issue here. You have to discredit the opposition. And that's what we're after here. We don't have to go slap them across the face, but we have to catch them in a lie, like it doesn't work, and show that it does work.
Yeah.
And that should stop any further increases they get or their further securitization bills that they get. Right. But literally, it just should put them in a neutral and make them step back a bit and allow us to get in to tell the truth.
Yeah, I think, as I look at and I've learned more information about this organization, Missouri stands at such a good opportunity. I mean, what this slide should show everybody on the call is that the average prices in the last 12 years have gone up 37.6%. That must mean, Mike, that your constituents and your friends in Missouri are talking to you about this. This is a live issue, right? This is a discussion that's like, man, my bills have gone up by a whole heck of a lot. What's these guys over at Ameren and these other IOUs, which we'll present on in 2 slides here, what are they doing, right? Why is my bill going up? And look, in these competitive states, it's gone down. And
in the competitive
more than other monopoly states. That's insane.
Think about this. In the competitive states, it's tough to do business because the rates are already down 27%. So what are you going to go down another 5%? But in a new state like this, if everybody would just get behind this thought, they're already up 37%. It's not going to be tough to show a supplier against that 37%. So in some ways, it's going to revigorate a lot of our businesses to open up a new state.
Okay, absolutely, man. So let's jump in a little bit. So that's obviously we're sitting there. And by the way, keep these questions coming, right? First off, thanks to Ira Holtzman and Mark Rice, who good friends of the industry and really trying to do this. we'll talk about some of the other things that have failed in the past. But Ira made a really good point here, which is just simply, and this is in the Q&A for everybody, that in Illinois, there needed to be a band of brokers and folks together to stem the competition or to go against what was being said and telling these lies, like Mike said. So there's precedence of other states. ILEPA, Illinois Energy Professionals Association, was formed similarly for the same reason as MOERA. So really appreciate that as well. So let's get into a little bit of, Jake, tell me what a little bit of your strategy is here in going after these legislatures and why you feel that Missouri really has an opportunity here to do this in 2022 if you get the support you need.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest things is, these utilities have gotten their way for decades. And there's been nobody really challenging them in any sort of capacity. So anytime they propose a bill, it's an easy yes for a legislator because there's nobody there saying no. So we've really focused on, focusing on the commercial side of things initially with our bill, eventually leading to a pathway of maybe getting some residential in there, down the line. We're not sure how exactly we're going to do the residential. There's been, we've talked with Risa a little bit about it. But I think it's probably something that we see in the next, 3 years after we pass the commercial side of things. We've looked at, partnering with other associations. We had some help with from Renew Missouri last year. They are solely focused on renewables. I've reached out to them again, hoping to set up another meeting with our, for our efforts next year. And another thing is also working to get people not to go against us. So last year we were fortunate enough to get the Missouri Chamber, which Ameren and Evergy are both a part of. We got them to stand down and at least be bipartisan, or not bipartisan, neutral on it, along with the co-ops. So we have a big section of our state is co-ops.
We'll show that in the next slide.
Yeah, we're not going to be touching that. So we, in order to make sure that they stay neutral. But we, as for the bill, we actually see this as a bill that's very bipartisan. Missouri is a supermajority Republican. So we have a lot of pro-business, pro-small business type legislators on the Republican side of things. And, they're also big corporate, they like their big corporations as well. So, they're just pro-business in general. And the Democrats, they're really about consumer protection. They want to make sure that consumers are getting the best benefits. And if that means that they have a chance to lower their electric costs, they'll do it. And I've had some great conversations with the vice chair of the Utilities Committee on the House. And I know that there's a slide coming up about that, so I'll wait to talk about that. Yeah, but we're also reaching out to businesses too. Getting business support is extremely important.
Right.
And
that are making money off of it, like our industry, they know we're selfish in a way, and that's okay, right? That's part of it, but it needs to come from the actual constituent.
And so we, in St. Louis County alone, there's Anheuser-Busch, which I couldn't even guess how many kilowatts per hour they use, but I'm sure it's a lot. And St. Louis County had an opportunity to have Amazon come in and put a new plant there, and they decided not to. These are things that we look at as potential opportunities to grow St. Louis County and Kansas City. And if we have something like deregulation, as some people call it, or we call it restructuring, I think we'll have a better opportunity. And I think Democrats will like to see that.
Absolutely, Jake. And so, I'm going to ask a question from the audience. Mark just asked, and, he said, we lost in Arizona, we lost in Nevada, we lost in Florida all recently. And what can we learn from those experiences this time around? And I'll kind of, answer it myself, and then love to hear your thoughts as well. But I think the biggest thing is focus, right? It's focus. And so when you look at the experiences that we've had in the past, and maybe not Arizona so much, but definitely Nevada and definitely Florida, there wasn't focus. It was, I want everything. I want resi, I want small, I want the whole thing to just be absolutely open for choice. I think what I really love is the fact that you guys are being laser focused, right? You're taking away all of the concerns that some people would have around, well, this might not be as good for resi, or, well, resi consumer protection, and they don't even know what they're signing up for. Great. Well, why don't we just start with the businesses, and not just the large businesses, but all businesses that are out there, right? And so again, just laser focus around this would be my answer of what you guys have learned from the last time around. Would you add any other commentary to that?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And, we've, one of the first questions that we get when we talk to legislators about this is, how does this affect the co-ops? Yes. And I keep saying, we're not going after the co-ops.
Right.
We are focused. And the truth is when we find a bill sponsor that loves this bill, which we do have one in the House, the first thing that they ask is, well, maybe we get this done, and then we kind of go after the co-op areas. And sometimes I have to tone them back a little bit. It's like, hey, listen, let's just focus on getting one, let's get one thing done at a time. Let's get our base hits, a baseball reference. If you're from, St. Louis, you have to have a baseball reference in there. But that's the main thing. And, talking with people that have been in this, this industry for a long time, it seems to be a message that's resonating very well.
That's awesome. Absolutely. So really appreciate that, Jake. I am curious. A lot of questions have been pouring in around what is the state of the natural gas choice in Missouri for the C&I and residential customer classes. Mike, talk about that a little bit. When I did my research online, it says no, but I think no is not the right answer. That it's not open for choice. I think it's the wrong answer. So tell us a little bit about that.
Now, Missouri is a transport state, meaning you can pick a supplier if you're using 5,000 therm in the Ameren service area. Problem with Missouri is Spire is the biggest utility in the St. Louis market, and its minimum is 350,000 therm. So there's only a handful of people that use that much, and they're pretty much well taken care of. But it's not no. It's kind of like a almost, what am I trying to say? It's yes,
very limited.
Yeah, it's not fully open.
Let me ask another question, Mike, so you can paint the picture for the audience. How many total people do you think are out there using that many decatherms, BCF of gas that they would qualify for transport? Hundreds, maybe?
It's hundreds, maybe.
Yeah.
In the Spire, and that's where we can nudge this along. But focus on electricity, get it open, and then we can always come back in later with a bill to reopen the natural gas market to everybody, not just people using 350,000 therm.
Absolutely. I mean, I would assume that we can both all agree, on this call, as well as all of our constituents on the call as well, that we know gas is a lower opportunity for swings, right? People use less gas, they pay less for gas overall than they do for electricity. Electricity is the big win, and gas, right, can easily come along after that. But again, it goes back to that laser focus. So some great questions coming in. I am going to read them while I ask Jake or Mike to tell me a little bit more about Missouri. Talk about what you see on the screen at the end of the day, but also talk about the different states, the different territories within the great state of Missouri. Who wants to take this one, Jake?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So in Missouri, like I said earlier, we do have a super majority of Republicans. We have 34 senators, and 24 of them are Republicans. And we actually have a small faction inside that are conservative caucus members, usually ranging from around 7 to 10 of them. And those are the pro business, the pro big business, the people that, the groups and the companies that will really, really like this. The Anheuser-Busch's, the GMs, those companies will really like a bill like this. And then we have, 2 moderate Republicans. A lot of the infighting, a lot of the political fighting comes inside the Republican Party, actually, not really Republican Democrat. And then our House is 163 members. 113 of them are Republicans and 49 of them Democrats. So
Very
yeah, and when we get to the vice chair of the House committee, she is a Democrat, but highly respected on both sides of the aisle. So that's another thing that we're focusing on is kind of, touching both sides of the aisle and making sure that we have a voice on each side that really cares about this issue. And then as you see with the map, we've got 3 investor-owned utilities. Ameren is the yellow, Evergy is the green, and Empire or Liberty is the teal. Ameren is clearly the biggest stakeholder and very well known.
Curious that just to paint the picture, because I'm not very familiar with the state. St. Louis is right around
just to the right of, right there.
Oh, there we go. I see it now.
Yeah.
It's a little tough to see in there. I gotta look real close to the screen. I'm sure everyone just did that.
Yeah,
right?
and then Kansas City is where the green part is, just a little bit north. Yeah, right around there.
Super cool. Again, these are the big areas. Now, Mike, tell me a little bit about, you just get the load on here, right?
People ask me, what are you spending time over in Missouri for? And I was a stockbroker for 30 years, so I understand opportunity when I see it. And and think about this: 28.9 million megawatts annually, 19.7 million megawatts annually. You were the one that brought the numbers up on this. Show them the numbers behind this.
Yeah, Mike, to me, it's like super easy math, and I hope all my constituents on this call, I see a lot of great questions pouring in, great audience participation on this one, but let's do math real quick. Let's just round up to 30 million megawatt hours, right? 30 million megawatt hours. And if you and just in CNI, because that's the focus right now. We're not talking about resi just yet, but some good load there too. 30 million megawatt hours. Every other state that is open for choice is about 80% chosen to a supplier on the CNI load. So figure 30, 80%, 24 million, right? Roughly megawatt hours times $2 margin, just 2.5. Let's call it 2.5 average margin for brokers, right? Maybe that's the same for suppliers. That's $60 million that is up for grab if Jake and Mike are successful at this, right? 60 million.
And that leaves out residential and natural gas. I mean,
or the co-ops or any of that. That is just what we're focused on doing in 2022 and the opportunity that stands in front of us.
Anytime you go after something like this, it's got to have a good reward.
Absolutely.
And the reward is 60 million a year.
That's right.
Mean, that to me is substantial, and that's why we're putting some effort behind that.
I love it. There's a lot of questions coming in too, and I do want to address this, but as we kind of get to the meat of what you guys did in 2021 and talking about the pros and cons. But a lot of the conversations here online, and by the way, Henry, definitely email me, jason@enerex.com. Done. I will hook you up with Jake and Mike if you guys want to get together on this. But there is a lot of questions coming on around, we haven't been successful at this before. And so you maybe need to change the team. I'll just answer this question for you guys. I have seen what has gone on in the other states. I have been around other legislatures and lobbyists like Jake. Jake brings a whole different passion to this. He's a young guy, just like I am as well, right? Coming up in the industry and realizing that it's about the passion, right? It's about the desire to make change in this world positively. And so for what it's worth, I hear what everyone's saying on the phone is like, well, we've lost so many times. So why should we think that this one's different? That's what we're trying to address on this slide and others, that this is a very different opportunity, right? Missouri is at the top of that graph of all of if you circle back to this graph real quick, right? This is very different. Missouri is very different than other states. Their prices are going up higher and quicker and faster than other states, right? And on top of it, it's a highly Republican state, so they're going to be pro-choice just by the nature of them being Republican. So I feel that this is much different than some of the other states that we mentioned. Florida came out so heavily against it because of FP&L, even though, right, they do have deregulated arms in Nextera and JEXA, but they came out heavy against it in Florida. Arizona is somewhat open for choice, so it's not like we fully lost there. And then Nevada, again, that's a different lobbyist in my opinion. So I'm going to close out with that, please.
Hey, Jason, Lewis asked a good question. What's the main source of generation in Missouri? What people don't realize here is everybody fought to get Illinois open. And if you look at the bill that Illinois produced, just duplicate it in Missouri. Missouri is very similar to Illinois. They have coal, they have, they have nuclear, they have co-ops, very similar. I would say almost a carbon print of a state that's already open. So this is a good question. Well, do they have a makeup that makes it impossible to offer a choice? No, they have a makeup that has opened a state with the same makeup and who's a poster child in the state. I mean, there's no doubt Illinois is one of the best. And here we are with Missouri standing off, raising their rates each year and getting away with it.
Absolutely, man. Couldn't agree more. All right, cool. So Jake, jump into it for me. I know there's some questions coming in around this slide, and walk us through 2021 Missouri's legislative session.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, was the first year that we've really tried this with a lobbyist. I know that at some point, I think back in 2014, they tried it. But this is it's a new year. So last year we had a Senate sponsor and a House sponsor, Senator Mike Moon. He is out of the Springfield area, Southwest Missouri. And Representative Dottie Bailey out of St. Louis County, which is a great sign because those are both areas where there are IOUs. Representative Bailey lives in Eureka, which is St. Louis County. That's Ameren territory right there. So first of all, I think that sends a very clear message that. And she's a conservative. Representative Bailey is a very conservative person that they're going to look out for their small businesses. They are going to push back on the IOUs, and IOUs are asking for rate increases. They asked for one just recently too. So the numbers that you've seen earlier, they're going to go up. So we had bill sponsors. We were able to get the House version sent to the Small Business Committee, which, like I said, we've already talked to the chairman. He wants to see it again in his committee. What happened last year was the sponsor, Representative Bailey, decided that she wanted to send it back to the Utilities Committee instead. But this year, I think because our new sponsor has a lot more knowledge on the subject, he's going to be able to debate in any committee that he sees fit. So we did have some, like I said, we had some positives. We did get it into a committee that was more beneficial at one point. We were, like I said earlier, we were able to neutralize the co-ops in the Missouri Chamber, which was a very big win. We're hoping to do it again this upcoming year. And then we started our association, which kind of showed that we were serious about this. When it's not, we're trying to make this not a David versus Goliath story anymore. We're trying to match their energy and match their strength that the IOUs have. The negatives, obviously, we didn't get the bill passed. It just stalled. I think it was a rough time. COVID is kind of taken the center stage of all of our legislative efforts. So
many new issues, and that's what I wanted to impress upon people. Like when I saw this and Jake was sharing this with me, I didn't see this as negative, really. I saw this as the building blocks, right? Laying the foundation for a year now that we come out of COVID, hopefully. And shoot, I live in Texas. Missouri's got to be the same way. COVID doesn't exist here in Texas anymore. People are
pretty much, yeah.
And
pretty much.
Again, respect for everything. I still wear a mask in a lot of places too. So respect for all that, but I'm just sharing it is so different. This legislative session, there will be less of these issues that had to be brought up and had to go to the top of the stack, right? Because it was COVID, and that's what all the constituents were caring about. And now is this, right? And
if I can say one thing, and I know I've talked to several people at the TIPA conferences about this, but for all the participants out, this whole situation reminds me very similarly to our casinos here in Missouri. Casinos have run the legislative side of things for decades.
Yeah.
But they got lazy. They got selfish, and they stopped working very hard. They stopped, working to pass legislation. They stopped filling pockets of legislators. They started kind of sitting around and getting lazy. Well, what happened is a bunch of video lottery terminals or no chance gaming came in. And they're like, you know what, we're going to start entering the state. And instantly the casinos said, well,
They woke up.
You can't do that. And the problem is they're too late. They're too late. And I see it as the same thing with our utilities. Our utilities get everything they want. They get everything they want, while at the same time increasing rates. And so at some point, if we band together and we show, hey, listen, we're serious about this. We can lower, we can be more competitive. We're going to see the same results that the casinos are, the utilities are going to see the same results that the casinos are seeing, and they're going to be in trouble. And I think that's why the time to strike is now.
Absolutely. And I would also assume that over the last 2 years, the casinos have to be one of the groups that you're going to go after, right? To help push these things along, because they all want choice. We saw what they did in Nevada. For those that have brought up the Nevada, they were pretty much 80+% of that funding. And, I remember the numbers. It was basically like the utilities spent about $70 to $80 million to go against, vote no on 4, I think is what it was, right? And then, but all the fundraising was only 30 million on the other side. Now, again, Nevada, much bigger state when it comes to electricity usage. But my point being is that those casinos still have a lot of power. What are you doing to get them on kind of board on the side of promoting choice in the state?
Jason, let me put a point in here. Mark Rice, who's been a friend of the industry for a long time, is asking, what does this look like? Do we have to put up another 70 million, or what's the? You're really talking about what, 10 to 15 people on a committee that are getting maybe $5,000 a year from Ameren? Do the numbers.
I would say Ameren is on the higher end of contributions. It wouldn't shock me, and I'd have to go through the whole Missouri Ethics Commission and each one of their lobbyists, but I would venture to say that they probably fill the pockets up to around $200,000 or $250,000 per cycle, per session. So but they don't, I'm sure they don't contribute during the actual session. So they wait till May and then go from May to December. And then our session starts in January. So it's not nearly as big as, when you have a grassroots ballot initiative that costs millions and millions of dollars. I work on campaigns on the side. So, I've run campaigns throughout the country. And it costs a lot more to do that than it is to get a lobbyist to do what we're doing right now. A lot more. And they're not even in the same ballpark.
That's super helpful.
Think about that, Jason. 250 versus 70 million.
Yeah.
This isn't a big stake. These guys have not been pushed.
Right.
If we could fund a good lobbyist a little bit to spread it around in Missouri, he gets to the table.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Very good. I'm glad we're answering so many of these questions. Talk about a little bit about the people, Jake, that you're working with here. Who are some of these faces that we see on the screen? There is a really good question too to answer if you can. And we've vetted
Mark Rice.
Do that. No, this is actually, Mark did ask a question.
Let me just get to Mark's question real quick.
Yeah, please.
It is not necessarily 150 reps that we're contributing $250,000 to. What happens is first you get your leadership, you get your committees, and then you can give small dollars to the other legislators. But the truth is getting it to the committees. Then you let the committee members kind of spread their relationships out a little bit more and say, hey, I've got this person over here, I have a great relationship with them. Maybe we only gave them $100, but the focus is getting the big fish, the money that they need. And that means getting it to the committee chairs like Senator Mike Searpoint in the Senate, or Nick Schroer, who is the small business chairman. That's the focus, because when you have them, typically in committee, very rarely do you see people go against the committee chair's wishes. The reason is because anybody in that committee that wants a bill passed, they don't want to go against the committee chair because they have some bills that they probably need out of that committee as well. So they don't want to make enemies. And that's why we don't focus we don't split it evenly. We focus a higher dollar amount for the people that are most important.
Great. Thanks for that, Jake. I appreciate it. Cool. Thanks for answering that question from our dear friends, Mark. And that was actually from Max. So Mark and Max. I know, it's like, wow, two different people, actually, same organization, family, actually. So, all right, talk a little bit about who these folks are. Who do we see on the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. So Representative Don Mayhew, he is obviously a rep here in Missouri. He has agreed to sponsor a bill, our bill, for next session. What I love so much about him was, unlike Representative Dottie Bailey, and this is no bash on the representative, I'm dear friends with her, he knows a lot more about electric. He knows a lot more about utilities, which is great, because one of the reasons that Representative Bailey wanted to move the bill from the Small Business Committee into the Utilities Committee was because she just did not know enough about the subject. So he did agree to sponsor it. I actually just talked to him yesterday saying that we will have a version of the bill sent to him soon. He was like, great. On top of that, what I loved the most about it was he was talking about the future. That's the biggest thing is, okay, if it doesn't get done this year, what about next year? What are we doing next year? What's our focus next year? And that to me is a huge sign, a great sign that he's looking to the future. And that, he even brought up the co-ops, and that's who I had to tone down a little bit, but I like the fact that he's thinking, okay, I'm going to stick with this. He even said, I'm not beholden to Ameren. I'm not beholden to the IOUs. He goes, I just, he wants good policy. The guy with the beard, that is Representative Nick Schroer, a good friend of mine. He is the chairman of the Small Business Committee. We've already talked to him about this bill. He loved it. He likes the idea. He said he would like to see it again in his committee. So I will be talking to the speaker very soon once we get the bill, to make sure that that is a serious option. Representative Tracy McCreary, the lady at the bottom, the picture of the lady at the bottom, probably a future senator, but she is the vice chairman of the House, or vice chairwoman of the House Utilities Committee. We talked to her this summer, and she loved this bill. She's already talking about working with the Black Caucus, because she's concerned about the Black Caucus not supporting this. But she is a true leader in the House. She will be a senator, I would believe, next in 2022 or after 2022, so 2023. But she's a serious supporter, and she likes to kind of brag that the utilities, especially Ameren, are not big fans of hers. So, but she is the vice chair, which is great, because that's a leadership role in the committee that this bill could eventually go to, that we'll have a great relationship with. So, and like I said earlier, we do have RISA hired some attorneys to help us draft this legislation for next session, and we have their support. We have TIPA's support. We've just got a lot of support, and this is I think that this is. It might not get done this year. I can't guarantee that it's going to get done this year, but we're going to make some moves this year. That's for sure.
I love it. You mentioned about the Black Caucus coming out against it. There is a hand raised, so I might even first time I'll do that, but allow somebody to ask a live question. So Mike, stay tuned. I'll be trying to come to you here in a quick second, but curious on the Black Caucus, you mentioned might come out against it. Why? And then also there is a question online, if you can, tie this into the people that you may feel be against it and why, would be the AARP, right? And senior citizens in general. I mean, again, I think that's why we're laser focused on businesses, to stay away from some of that. But Jake, can you answer some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll first start with the Black Caucus. I would say one of the reasons is because I would venture to say that Ameren provides some sort of residential subsidy for lower income, and that's St. Louis City, and that's where our biggest Black population is. So maybe that's the reason. I know that both chairmen in the House and the Senate made comments about their concern for this this subsidy that the utilities provide for the residential being taken away and how that affects the residential side. But the numbers, everything that RISA has provided has shown that it really doesn't do much. And that's why we're so focused on the commercial side so far, is to kind of show that, hey, listen, you know, we're going to start here, but we are working on residential. We want to help. Our goal is not to hurt anybody, you know, and this goes with AARP too, the senior citizens. They're getting taxed out of their homes. So we're trying to help them lower their electric cost by allowing them to have a choice. And right now they don't. So that's kind of the focus, is just that's where I guess you could say the problem or the argument against it would be, is that this could affect residential, but all the numbers show differently.
Hey, one other point you have to realize on natural gas again, Ameren just increased the natural gas rate by 50%. You don't think that's going to affect the senior market when they have to pay 50% more for their natural gas to heat their homes? So the timing couldn't be any better given that recent increase.
Yeah, it's a very good point as well. Got some really good questions in here about the key provisions of the draft bill, and will the bill transition utilities out of default service? I think what would be important there, Jake, would be, are we trying to pass a bill as a team here in Missouri that is more like Texas restructuring, or is it more like PJM and MISO and some of the other states?
I think we're kind of doing it. Mike, you might need to take this one. I forget which state that they said that they're kind of focused on.
Think about this. We had one of these calls with the attorneys that are drawing up the legislation, and we bandied it around several different areas. And then somebody said, I think it was me, that said, hey, you realize that Ameren's unique. They're in Illinois already, and they're in Missouri. And Missouri is a very similar state makeup to Illinois. So the decision was to pull the Illinois bill and just reform it for Missouri, because Ameren's already signed the Illinois bill. We don't want to put something in front of them that they're not aware of. So we're going to put a revision of the Illinois bill into the hands of the legislatures in Missouri.
I think there was some other states. I think they're kind of taking, I think what the goal is to kind of take from several different states. One of the reasons we didn't want to go exactly with the Illinois was it's a 400-page bill or something like that. Our legislators are not going to read that. I can guarantee you that. I mean, 100 pages is stretching it.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, to answer, I think the question it is going to be more of the utility will still be in the default service role. I would have to assume, especially with Ameren being the largest IOU there, that it is going to be similar in nature to that restructuring, whereby the utility will still be the billing for the customer. There will be some provisions. I'm sure you guys are talking about things like consolidated billing, utility consolidated billing, right? So, yep. John, to answer your question, thanks so much for it. But I would say you're looking at the utility still being in the default service role within this bill.
And we will share the bill when we do get the bill. We will share the bill with you.
If they're part of this organization, we'll talk about it.
Exactly.
Jump on board here, you know.
Yeah, so. Exactly. If you're part of MOERA, you will get to see the bill, and you'll get insight to it as well. So,
absolutely. So good actually transition over to our next few slides is, what do we need to do, right? How do we get successful in 2022? And what are your challenges and roadblocks right now to getting this legislation passed?
So 2022, I mean, the great thing, we do have a sponsor. We're working on the Senate side. So, we have some things going for us. The biggest thing is growing MOERA, growing our association. I've heard this, actually, this is a saying from one of Ameren's lobbyists, told me this a long time ago. He goes, if you're not at the table, you're the meal. And, the sad thing is that's the truth. And right now we're partially at the table. But that's our biggest hurdle, is we need to show up like we're the real deal. We've got, we've got, as if we've got million, multi, 20, $30 million companies that are behind us, willing to write, willing to help out at any point. And that is a huge aspect of it. I would say that's probably the biggest aspect of it. And
money
it goes
support, right?
Money and support, reaching in when it comes to committee, reaching out to committee members saying, hey, listen, I am company X and I'm a broker. And let me tell you something, I've got, I've done this much in Illinois. I can do this much in Missouri and I can save this much. Those types of messages to legislators goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And so between the money and the grassroots support from the community and people in the industry, I think is going to be extremely important. So I guess that's kind of a positive, and it's the positive side of things. And I guess you could say what would be the hurdle as well.
Right. No, right. It's not having that support in time and energy and money. It's funny. So, Henry made a good point through the Q&A, which is just like, we need some salespeople to kind of get in this, right? I don't know the first thing about legislation, but I do know how to pump up some people, right? So I'm going to make this ask really clear to the audience. There's two things that you can do, right? You can put your money behind this. Now, if you notice on this page, the fundraising goals aren't that big. We're talking about either $1,000 a month, or AKA $12,000 a year, or a $36,000 a year sponsorship. It's only going to take 10 to 20 member organizations of MOERA to really reach those fundraising goals. And what those are going to do is allow Jake to make some of those political contributions, get that seat at the table that we're talking about. And, and again, increase some of the lobbyists' pay. Jake doing this for 12 grand a year, right? Come on. We all know in this call, can't even hire a...
They think I'm crazy. They think I'm crazy. Some of the other lobbyists think I'm crazy.
I think you're crazy, brother. Like, I want to pay you some money out of my own pocket just because they want to support these efforts. My point being is, these aren't really crazy, lofty goals, right? Jake's not making, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars of this. Maybe once he passes this and gets this done in Missouri, he will be that face for other member organizations. But my point and call to action is there's two things you can do. Put your money up if you're willing to do it, and realize that with these different membership levels, there's going to be different levels of engagement that you will have access to. If you want to just be kept in the loop of what's going on in Missouri, that's really that $1,000 a month level. If you want to be really in the legislature, going to some of these meetings and being, really kind of ingrained into what MOERA is doing, that's the $3,000 a month level that they're contributing to. Now, I will tell everybody on this call, if you don't have that kind of money, right, which we completely understand sometimes that you don't, at least take the time, energy, and effort to go engage your customers. The MOERA team is making this absolutely easy and turnkey for you. Get out your cameras, get out your phones right now so you can do this, or we will send this out. By the way, a lot of questions on, can you send out these slides? Of course. Enerex always sends out the slides. Give us until Tuesday of next week to be able to do this. But if you want to, go ahead and scan any of these boxes. There are two ways, both PayPal and GoFundMe, to sponsor. You can reach out to Jake and Mike if you want more terms of like actually some level of agreement, if you will, of what the $1,000 and the $3,000 tier gets you. Hey, if you just want to donate $100 to the fund just to promote it, again, those are your two QR codes on the left. Now, the QR code on the right, let me explain this. I want everybody on the phone right now to be scanning this or going to gomoera.com. I'll show you in a quick second here. There is a turnkey way on this website, right, to email your constituents. This is the MOERA website. You scroll down to the bottom here. I'm going to show you what I mean. Contact your state legislatures. There is already basically a pre-written petition, if you will, that is going out to these representatives. And it's a very turnkey process. You can click and look up where your state representative is, who your state senator is. All the emails are logged in behind this. So it's as simple as your customers filling out an incredibly quick form. Anybody that knows businesses in Missouri, I am encouraging you to get up and act on this right now. So, Jake, Mike, could you want to add anything to that call to action that I just had there?
No, it's perfect. And of course, we would appreciate any help you could give us. I think it's important to answer these questions that have come in. Lewis had one on the solar effort.
Please.
And you have to realize something. I was approached by a couple of solar guys at the TIPA meeting, and they opened my eyes to a different way of approaching this. Solar people want a state that's open to competition. Why is that? Because it's a more competitive structured state for them. If they go into a state like Missouri, which they have through Renew Missouri, they got legislation passed and then realized the utilities weren't being real fair with them. They're working with monopolies. So what I'm trying to say is the solar industry, the thermal, the wind will be more friendly to this effort and back this effort because it gives them a more structured market to work in. The other one was Shane Bowling. How many C&I corporations and individuals have been informed of this endeavor? That's a challenge for us because I have another job. We're sitting on 2 billion kilowatts over in Illinois. And, you have to manage that or it goes away. And Jake's obviously got a small piece of our effort to do a big yeoman effort, but because of TIPA, we worked with Summer over there. She's been hired by our company to put together a list of C&I corporations and industrial corporations. And she's the one that told us point blank, Walmart has 14 distribution centers. They're all in deregulated states. Think about that. This guy who's running Walmart's facilities is literally saving millions by putting his distribution centers in deregulated states that offer choice. So if we can just, follow up on what she's going to do for us to put together that big list, I think it's just one of the pieces of the puzzle that we'll give to Jake to show to these legislators.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'll jump. There's another comment here that's quite interesting around what, other states have deemed, deregulation equals uncertainty. And some of these, some suppliers and some of their residential rates with some teaser plans, et cetera, that will drive up the cost. I'll honestly give this is an opinionated group, right? We should be. And it's all about talking about opinions and then coming to a middle ground. In my humble opinion, as I saw some of these other states open up for choice, there was so much emphasis put on savings, And then the second that savings didn't exist, or that, hey, the market actually is working, and that means that it's actually, bringing new choice and bringing new options to customers. And some of those prices went up, and then realized because of how restructuring works, now you're comparing a utility rate, like for instance, in PA that changes every 3 months. You want to talk about not certainty, it's going to change every 3 months, right? So you're talking and now comparing apples and oranges. So I do feel like if we have to talk about savings, right, have to talk about choice is really the piece that you have to drive to the politicians. Now, I don't disagree. It has to be positive to the businesses. The businesses have to realize that my rate's gone up 33%. That's not the market rate. I could get a better rate by it being an open market and there being competition. So I think competition definitely drives down prices or keeps prices low when you have more competition versus just the rate of return. However, if all we do is focus on savings, the second savings doesn't exist. That's when these legislatures / AGs, attorney generals, are coming back at us and saying, wait a minute, you promised me savings. Well, no, I promised you that versus where you were at. And if you continued on this path of the rate of return of 4 to 8% a year, that's the savings that I'm actually saying to you, because choice will keep that at bay versus saying I'm always going to be lower than the IOU. Impossible, right? So I think it's got to be come correct with the messaging is my point.
Hey, Jason, we want to thank Stephen Pollack, who took it upon himself to send an email off this presentation to his legislators. So thank you.
Oh, Stephen Pollack, a good friend of the Enerex family. Round of applause, baby. Round of applause.
Jason, I do owe Mike Anderson an answer. He asked a question about a pilot program. We did talk about that, about potentially doing that. The one issue you run into is it leaves an argument for the IOUs to sit there and be like, well, if you're so confident in it and it works so well, why do you need a pilot program? So it's actually kind of a backup plan that we have, that we're going to first kind of focus on getting this passed. And if we keep getting close and it's like, hey, listen, we're not going to do, we just can't do this to the, every single area of the, the monopolized area, then we might focus and move it over to a pilot program which I would venture to say St. Louis County would probably get behind pretty quickly. They are struggling with losing out on businesses to Kansas City right across the state. So, but I do appreciate the question. It's something that we have thought about.
Yeah, I'll also kind of give one, parting piece here, which if you guys don't mind, but, we talk about a lot of, what are other organizations doing to sponsor this, and what are other organizations getting to go and get behind this effort? And the answer is it's going to take us, right? Us as the salespeople in the industry to encourage our customers, and better yet, encourage the associations. So for those brokers that are still on the phone, that you might be, for instance, one of my customers came to me yesterday and told me that she just became the electric advisor for all of the veterinary clinics, the Veterinary Clinic Association of Texas, TVCA. It's like so awesome. It was congratulations. It's all. But I bet you there's another organization just like that, just like the organizations that you guys are energy advisors to. That same association might exist, likely exists in Missouri. And I think it's important not just to target individual businesses that are in Missouri, but the association of businesses. Tell them what you're doing for those associations in other states. Typically, that when I've been part of an organization funding another organization, what I mean by that is, when I was at a supplier, we used to be the lead supplier for, let's say, the Illinois Hotel Lodging Association. At the end of the day, the amount of businesses that came on board, we'll call it a kickback. That is how we structured the deal, right? The deal is that organization got money to fund other of their efforts, right? Their annual events, whatever it is, to make their members better. And why not a better way to do that? Through choice and restructuring within the state of Missouri. So I encourage you all not only to get in front of your customers, but get in front of your associations. Look and see if there's other associations in Missouri that are like the ones that you serve in the states that are open for choice. So another call to action that just popped in my mind. But Jake, Mike, any closing comments? I can't thank you guys enough for spending time with me today. We had a great audience, fantastic participation. Anything to close us out before I close us out from the Enerex side?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much to you guys and to all the participants. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think this is something that we could get done. So the time's now. I mean, this is the perfect time. So any help that we can get, it would be greatly appreciated. And we're definitely going to start making some moves here very, very soon. I know it.
You rest up over the holidays. You work that out.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of people on this phone call can relate to when they started their brokerage firms, right? And, hungry and young and, looking at the future of what it's going to bring, not the dollars that you're getting today, but what this opportunity could open up for your career in the future. And you and I have had those conversations.
Yeah.
So sharing that with others is like, this is the guy you want in front of the folks. This is the same thing that Mike realized when he chose to, sponsor or work with Jake, right, to get this done, is that we see Jake as that face that can really bring some change to Missouri. So thanks for your efforts, Jake, and Mike. Thanks for really, putting this on, buddy. Anything from you?
Yeah, just remember, it makes no sense in this market to have 20 years go by and have no states open.
Truth.
Anything you can do to get behind this effort, anything, will be greatly appreciated. And we need to disclose what these utilities are doing in Missouri with this data we have. Thanks for your efforts.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So just to bring this home, Enerex, thanks Jake and Mike for coming on. Joe, thanks for all that you do as our marketing coordinator to put on these great events. We are taking a hiatus for the rest of the year. We will be back in January with our monthly sessions. For those that actually sponsor MOERA, you will get these updates. We probably will bring them back for an update here in 2022 of how they're doing as well. But the Enerex webinar series, again, taking a hiatus for 6 weeks. By the way, for my current customers on the phone, a lot of that time and energy is going to be spent on our roadmap in 2022. So very excited to bring you some more stuff here next year. Thanks for all the love and support from my constituents that choose to give me their time on these webinars. And just a hearty thank you to Jake and Mike for joining me. Cheers, y'all. Have a great weekend. Great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.